I believe each of us is good at something. Intelligence tests, unfortunately, take a look at us and really evaluate us only under two perspectives usually. Whether we have some linguistic abilities or whether we have some mathematic abilities. Researchers now have said that, we should take a look at intelligence a little broader and talk about it from 7 different viewpoints. There's first of all the linguistic part of our intelligence, which leads us to be good writers and poets. There's the logic and math side of us. Those are the people that become our accountants and our scientists. There's those who have spatial intelligence. These are the ones who become our artists and our architects and our builders. There's kinesthetic ones. Those are the ones who are our athletes, our dancers, ballet. Then there's the interpersonal intelligence. These are the people that are good salesmen or are good counselors. There are those also who can look within and can see the bigger picture about ourselves. They're perhaps the people that can write those things that have us look at the most deep values about ourselves. That philosophers. And finally, there's those with musical talent. So these different kinds of intelligences in the research that was done on them point out that every single person is good at least one of these 7 areas. They can excel in it. So therefore, we are all gifted. Unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily mean we do anything with the gifts that we've been given. Let's take a look at the parable in the gospel today. You can see what happened between the first guy who was given 5 talents and the second guy who was given 3 talents. They went out and traded with it. They did something with the talents that they were given. The problem with the last one, and the reason he got into trouble, is because he didn't do anything with his talents. There's even a rabbinic interpretation about buried treasure that says if you bury someone's treasure, you are no longer liable for it if somebody else digs it up. So not even this guy was worried about the fact he did nothing with the talents, but he wasn't even going to be he was going to find himself not even liable for having lost it completely. Now the difference in this story and our understanding of it is this. When the master turned over, he said he turned over all his possessions to these three servants. All of his possessions. And a talent was a huge kind of gift. A talent was referred to as an amount of money that might be equal to 3 years' wages. And so if you've got 5 talents, that's 15 years' wages that you were given to invest. That's a huge amount of money. And so it goes with the other one who was given the smaller amounts. So the one who lost it, who basically buried it and didn't increase it at all, was the one who failed to take any kind of risk. Because it's always going to take some kind of risk in order to make something out of what you've been given. You can't just sit on it. Christopher Columbus, when he set out to chart this new path to the new world, depended on charts and maps to the best of his ability in those days. And yet we look at those charts and we say, well, they're completely wrong. And yet he took the best charts that he had, made the best judgments he could, and ended up where he did. Ended up discovering this new world. Not exactly where he wanted to go, but he definitely discovered something quite astounding. And Magellan did the same thing when he took off. He wanted to circumnavigate the road, the earth. And so what did he do? He used the best charts he had, yet he took a risk. There's a lot of risk in those days to take a ship and go out into that ocean with uncharted waters and crude instruments in order to find your way around. Think about Lewis and Clark as they explored the United States. They had no way of knowing exactly where the Mississippi River went. And many times along their route, they would go up tributaries thinking that it was the main route and end up coming to a smaller end and decide that's wrong, and they come back and they do it again. So they did all sorts of traveling before they ever got to their destination. But again, it was a great risk on their part to do this, and as a result, opened up the United States, to exploration. So they took the risk. We can talk about farmers too. We can talk about the risk that it is to be a farmer every time you put those seeds in the ground. You know, are you going to be able to harvest anything at the end of the year? Or is it going to dry out, or is it going to hail out, or whatever? You take a risk doing that. Even the crazy story about two guys who are visiting about what they're going to plant next year. He says, Jake, what are you going to plant next year? He says, are you going to plant corn? He says, no, I'm worried about the corn more. Well, are you going to plant potatoes? No, those potato bugs are pretty bad these days. I'm not going to plant any potatoes. Well, are you going to plant beans? No, I'm afraid of the aphids. Well, what are you going to plant? He said, I'm going to plant nothing. I'm not taking any chances. Well, that's a stupid little story. No farmer would ever get caught dead doing that. But nonetheless, that's what it means when we take our talents and don't do anything with them. Now, the woman that's talked about in the first reading today, this special wife, she took her talents and she used them. And she made a good life for her family. And so that's what we got to do too. We got to take the talents we have. Now, we can think about talents in two ways. We can think about it in terms of those skills, like I talked about at the beginning, in terms of intelligence. But also, Jesus is really referring to the gift of faith. What have we done with the gift of faith? How has it grown? Because that's the huge gift we've been given. More important than any other gift is that gift of faith. Our faith in Jesus Christ, a relationship with Him, that which will provide us with that eternal kind of treasure that's forever, the treasure to be with God in heaven. And so this tremendous gift that we've been given, we can also sit on that too. We can kind of go through just the bare minimum, kind of like burying it, the bare minimum, not risk to do anything. We dare not sit on these gifts that we've been given, our faith or our talents. We all have different gifts. There's no doubt about it. In the community, all those gifts are needed at one time or another. They're meant to be given back to God. God also gives us responsibilities with those gifts, and as we share those gifts, we are given more responsibility because we become trustworthy to be able to do something with what's been given us. The lazy and unproductive servant is going to be punished. And God blesses those who share their gifts with others, with the generosity that God appreciates. Just to share with you something that was an experience of mine just locally, right here, just a couple days ago. We had a guild meeting, and the women who came were the officers as well as the guild leaders of all the different circles, as well as those who are going to be taking over that job. And I complimented them on the fact that they came forward to take leadership for these different organizations and circles and duties that the women take care of, whether it's the funeral dinners or cleaning the church or taking care of getting the fall dinner going and various other smaller items that happen throughout the year. And yet they're the ones who've got to make phone calls to get everybody else. And sometimes when they make those phone calls, they get chewed on because they're asking people to do things. And I think we can also be, as people who are followers, a little more supportive of those who have taken the time to organize for the sake of the life of our parish. And I think we can support them. And the second piece of the puzzle that I thought of was the elderly, in terms of not being able to do these things anymore. You're not able to make a big salad for the funeral, and that's all fine and good. But you can call up those leaders of your circle and say, good job. I remember when I was a director, I would, just to support them and give them that help. But what I was impressed of more than anything was the willingness to take up the leadership. And I think that's true in our parish. That's part of our fabric. And I see it demonstrated really well in that organization. And so what's important again is sharing your talents, doing something with what God has given you, giving it back a little bit for the sake of the community or the parish or your faith. So be a risk taker. Grow in your talents, especially grow in your faith. And when you're invited to do something that might stretch you just a little bit, think of it as taking that risk. And you can discover something new about yourself and about your relationship with God. Be ready. Be ready for that final reckoning when the Lord will ask us, what did you do with your talent?